All right. So we'll let people trickle in for about a minute here while we get settled. Thanks for joining, Allison.
Thanks for having me. I wasn't expecting cameras.
Oh yeah, we don't have to. I mean, because we're gonna put this on the YouTube, so if you don't want to be on camera, feel free to turn it off. But yeah, we do record these and then they go up on the Y Talks YouTube channel. And we actually have a new person helping us recently joined. And they're going to be helping us kind of split up the videos into like shorter segments, which I'm excited about. So we'll have hopefully more little sound bites coming out. But yeah, we can get started soon. I'm excited for today's talk. Yeah, kind of in January, I did a big push to reach out to new prospective speakers and just get a sense of like, okay, how do we touch on certain topics? And I'm really excited for today's because I had wanted to sort of structure a talk around hiring and hiring practices with regard to AI and AI talent. And I had a call with Regina Angelis, who honestly is really doing amazing in her field. She has a lot of expert talent in talent strategy, AI deployment, and recruiting. So I thought, okay, this is like the perfect person to bring on to have this conversation because we want to talk about efficiency and productivity gains when you're deploying and integrating AI. But then we want to talk about the fairness and we want to talk about how it's impacting hiring. So there's kind of a lot of ground to cover with this. So we'll sort of let the conversation guide us. But Regina advises on AI governance, strategic assistant tools, and advice for first-time hiring managers. So I thought this could be like a good talk to span um, a few different segments in terms of, okay, bigger companies, but also startups, right? And then also having a conversation around upskilling high performers to adapt to this, right? Because one of the central themes we'll come back to is, do you hire externally for this, people who are already sort of up to par, right? Or do you, I mean, I guess the answer is both, right? At some point, we're going to come to that. But yes, I just want to introduce Regina Angeles. And yeah, feel free to say hello and give us a little intro.
Hi, thanks for the invite on this talk today. So yeah, I've been um, on my own since 2019 with Talent Now, and it's a executive recruiting consultancy that focuses on go-to-market and leadership roles for online media, e-commerce, and SaaS startups. Everything from Series A to much more established mid-sized to large companies. From an AI deployment perspective, I would say I've been probably 2.5, 3 years into using AI to automate my own workflows within my business. So, recruiting, lots of repetitive tasks. So, whether it was making sure all of the AI enabled features in the tech stack that I use, they're all on, but also on top of that, um, experimenting and using and deploying like all the different agents. So I use Gemini, I use Claude, and I use Chat GPT, but not as much as before. So just figuring out the differences and the strengths between those three. Um, Most recently, actually, I created a AI enabled career coaching agent that helps job seekers kind of accelerate their job search process. So it's interesting because I've layered in a whole knowledge base around the career development and job search tools that I've created over the years.
I
So
love that.
it goes through everything from like optimizing your resume to creating a universal profile on LinkedIn to help your discoverability. It gives you interview scripts depending on, what the role you're interviewing for, who you're interviewing with. and a whole other range of things, like creates a career development plan for you, helps you with a skills-based resume if you're pivoting industries. Um, it's in beta right now, and I can send you the link after the call. You have a 5-day trial before it goes behind a paywall. So I'm setting that up right now, but very
Oh my
interesting.
gosh.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Do share, because
Yeah,
that's something I can share also to the to the Women in AI Slack channel if you need
yeah,
like a group of beta
yeah,
testers. But that's so cool. And you made this yourself?
yeah,
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Oh, I love
Really,
that.
it took less than 24 hours actually to get like the first product out the door. I had a group of people I sent it to, and they started using it, and it was very glitchy at first, but I think we've worked through some of it. And again, it's an interesting thing. Like I use Mind Studio to build it, and I basically was talking to a bot for like the entire time. It was a really weird experience because it was building with me. It was a little bit like vibe coding, but
Right.
a little bit more technical than I was expecting. So I learned a ton in that
Oh
period.
my gosh.
So it's
Well, and that
and
speaks to like the spirit of innovation that we're in right now, right? Like that's like the one thing. It's like, okay, this is impacting hiring, this is impacting how people are being discovered, how they're being seen, but then at the same time, it's like you can use it too,
yeah, yeah,
right? Use it
exactly.
back.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
mean, I think within the context for recruiters and hiring managers, there's a lot of ways to use AI to kind of automate what you're already doing, right?
right.
Stop sending out those same emails. You can get Gemini to do that, to say, okay, respond to this outreach. This is what we're looking for. And then, it drafts it for you, and then you can
Hmm.
review it and send. So it's for that, for workflow stuff, I think it's the most direct application. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think the AI is as great still in terms of just actually evaluating profiles. And
Right.
the biggest distinction there is really that it still doesn't get the context of the companies that
Hmm.
you work in, right? If you have the
Right.
same title and you work at Google and or a Series A company, it still thinks you're the same,
Right.
but that experience is completely different, right?
Hmm.
How you
Hmm.
operate is completely different. So that's for me, that's the biggest gap. But if I were a hiring manager and I got 500 applications and I created an evaluation tool that said, surface for me the candidates who've shown that they've been promoted multiple times throughout their career, the
Right.
way that, because you'll see the dates and titles change. Show me the
Right.
people who have looks like they were working full time while getting a degree because the dates
Hmm.
overlap. Those are
Right.
two performance metrics that are like, everyone I've talked to who's ever done that, these are high performing people,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They can, but if you're putting stuff in like, I want to see people who graduated before 2015 or after, that is a problem,
Right. Because
right?
that's something we were talking about is obviously the risks, the inherent risks with deploying AI. We have that famous Amazon thing where they deployed AI and turns out it was, making determinations that were sexist. And now this landmark, who was it that was
Workday, the case against
Workday. Thank
Workday.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the other part there. Like if you have an inexperienced hiring manager who created that tool that said, I only want to see people who started working after 2015 or something like that, that's now
Hmm.
documented
Right. Hmm.
and discoverable. So that's the thing to think about. That's where you open up all the liabilities. So I think from everyone I've talked to who's in the process of deploying, and it depends on the risk appetite of your organization, but figuring out one, like the guidelines around where is the data coming from, how are we keeping that data, are we agreeing to a range of tools across the organization that everyone will be using, right? Or are we
Hmm.
limiting it? It's like, it's all those questions. Are we going to have a suite of AI enabled tools that everyone will have access to? Is it going
Right.
to be job specific, work, whatever? But I think there has to be kind of a framework set up within your organization so that there's a common baseline for you to start from, because everyone's using it and picking it up in very different ways.
Right. And how much of the onus are you leaving up to the individual to create or fill a gap, right? Are they, because I think there's a difference between people that will be highly motivated to do that and people who won't be, right? And then will that create a bottleneck, within the organization at some point? Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Like organizations that you see deploying AI and whether it's hiring workflows or candidate screening, what are you seeing as the most effective trends, I guess?
Um, right now, there's still a lot of productivity stuff. I think the part that's getting interesting is like now that people are building agents,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Hmm.
again, what is the organization's feeling? Is it okay if I use Gem to draft all of my emails for client communications,
Right.
right? How much of your like Gem is embedded in all the Google suite. So basically,
Mhm.
out of all the three big agents out there, the one thing I was surprised by is that because it's been snooping around your email and your calendar and your Google Drive for a while, it knows exactly what you're working on.
Mhm.
It
Right.
knows the documents you've created, it knows who you talk to, it knows your tone of voice, your speaking and writing patterns.
Mhm.
So the accuracy of it in terms of, if you're using it for external communications, it still sounds like me. You wouldn't know that I created an agent to do that, to respond to specific emails I was getting.
And is it responding without your knowledge? Like, are you
No, no,
consciously
no.
aware? Okay.
Everything is drafted and then you have to manually send it.
Okay, okay.
But
Got
the
it.
content creation piece is automated.
Hmm. But I mean, even our email, like there's an AI button if you want to click it and it will, draft something right away for you. That's like an embedded feature already.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean,
And the question is, how much access do you want to give it? So
right.
I created this agent that for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, where I put in my LinkedIn credentials into Chat GPT, and I said, I want you to identify this type of profile for me. C-level people that I have more than 10 mutual contacts with who are in these industries, and add it to this list.
Mhm.
It worked really well.
Yeah,
But you have to give it all of your credentials so it can read everything you're doing in LinkedIn, right?
right,
I'm a solo practitioner. I was okay with that. I don't know if that's going to be the case. LinkedIn employees, I'm sure, would not be doing that,
right.
right? So it, again, depends on like who are you willing to share your data with?
And that's the hard part about it. I mean, there aren't really standards of practices. It is kind of just everybody both deciding for themselves and every company deciding for itself
Yeah.
what
Or,
level.
I mean, you can do the fully private enterprise version of any of the agents, right? But that's a
Mhm.
very expensive proposition. Every user
Right.
who has that, that domain email gets to
Mhm.
use this. You set up the documents, like the databases and that you're sharing within that. Very sophisticated tool, but again, really expensive. If you're
Right.
doing this from an experimentation point of view and are not 100% in yet, I don't know if that's the route that you'd want to go.
Yeah. And then how do you see like mistakes manifesting? What are some common mistakes that you see when you're engaging with clients or with um
Um, Well, for recruiting specifically, there's this constant debate. Well, if recruiters are using AI to filter resumes and then candidates are using AI to create their resumes to
right.
customize them, is this really like they're kind of canceling each other out? Where do you see the human intervention coming in there? So that's, I think that's a valid question right now because you're both using the same tools. Like there's a lot of concern right now against with fake candidates or
Mhm.
candidates using AI enabled tools during the interview process, especially for technical interviewing, right?
Right.
I've
Right.
had hiring managers say to me on some of the more technical product roles that I've worked on recently, the person sounded like they were reading that straight from an agent. So how do you assess what does this person really know versus not?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to
Yeah.
come up with some sophisticated, either better interview training, right? And some guidelines on kind of like what's the real answer that we're looking for.
Right. Right.
Because
And
there are some companies who are very explicit. They're like, we encourage that you use AI, but not to answer the technical questions we're giving you when we're
right.
evaluating you as a candidate.
And
So
that was already a challenge. I mean, I remember being in data science roles, and interviewing for those roles and feeling like, oh my gosh, there's like no standard in terms of like, you might have just gotten like a bunch of lead code questions, and then it's like, this isn't what I'm going to be doing though. Like, why not test me on what I'm going to be doing? So there was already this
yeah,
conflict between how technical roles like that are being interviewed for, but now it just feels like so much more distortion.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's part of, again, it depends on your organization. It depends on your appetite for risk there, right? But I think also the other trend that I'm seeing is that everyone's thinking like, okay, this started off as a very technical skill set to have. But I think the more emotional intelligence you have, the more kind of critical thinking skills. Like somebody should be reading something and be able to say, okay, I can definitely detect this is AI generated versus
Hmm.
this is a human being who was thinking through the problem. And
Right,
here's how they use the tool to get to the most comprehensive answer possible. There is a
right.
huge difference there.
Mm,
It's how you query, you know what I mean? Like, because it's about asking questions. And I think part of the reason I probably adapted to it sooner, that's what I do for a living. I ask
right.
people questions. So now I'm interfacing with this thing that has access to all the information on the internet.
Hmm.
Great. But I know the answers. I kind of have a theory about where I want my answers to be validated.
Right. And that's the thing is like people have to sort of decide how to establish enough fluency with these tools that they
Yeah.
can demonstrate that when they are hiring, or sorry, when they are interviewing for roles.
I mean, the other way to think about it too is like if you set up your agents properly, it's like having a 24/7 intern
Hmm.
working with you. So if it's for research, like I use it a lot for, I'm about to launch a search. I will ask Claude, give me the top 25 competitors to this company. And then from there, do a survey on like within the industry, where would this skill set, what companies are best known for delivering the best candidates with this skill set? Is there
Right.
a study on that? So then I automatically have a target company list. But
Oh
it's
my
those really
gosh.
specific questions to ask, right? I'm not just saying whatever, like the fastest growing this. I want them to be kind of related to each
Pointed.
other.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, and I think I mean clearly it's working for you, right? Because you're sort of establishing this brand and this business on uh using your thought leadership, seeing these trends and being able to amplify, what is happening, right? And being kind of an authority, right, in that space. So it's beautiful to watch you demonstrate that like for your own business. Like
Absolutely. But it's
um
evolving,
oh, what's that?
still evolving a lot and very quickly.
And that's the other hard part is I do feel that overwhelm from people, right? Because we all kind of feel it. Like we all know that there's so much going on and so many different models, and to your point earlier, they're all good at different things and we have our preferences for them, right?
Right.
So even just that alone requires like a fair amount of curiosity and investment from people.
Absolutely. And I think the for the folks who are still kind of sitting on the sidelines in a wait and see mode, my only warning to them is that the longer you wait, the bigger the gap gets.
Right.
It's, I mean,
Even
it's sizable. Like,
between like now and a year ago and 2 years ago. I mean,
It's
Because
like
the rate
that's
of
like
growth
two
is
generations already.
it's the rate of growth is increasing.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's not just, okay, there's new things. The amount of new things that are coming out is increasing. So again, that adds to the weight. It adds to the, I guess, the challenge of which you focus on and how what applications you start with, right? So let's talk about that for a second. How can people demonstrate AI effectiveness when they are applying? What do you think are the big things that
I think
stand
to
out?
have a really specific use case is a good place to start,
Hmm.
right? Because again, there's no blueprint on how to do this correctly. So if you say, in the course of an interview or something, you say, I have been deploying AI, you better have an answer as to how and why. What were you
Hmm.
trying to solve for when by using this tool? And how
Yeah.
did you build it? I would start there. Because if you can't
Hmm.
answer that and bring the rationale to the table and talk about it, then like, what do you really use? You're basically replaced Google with this, which is
Right.
that doesn't make sense, right?
Hmm.
That's you're paying for something that like that was free before, but I think people are still in the kind of like just give me information phase research, but it now we're talking about like if you've moved to actual tasks that it's doing for you,
Right.
I
Hmm.
want to hear about that. Like hiring managers want to understand why and how.
Yeah. And then, a fair amount of the folks that are in our organization are practitioners. In many cases, they're aspiring practitioners, right? So, I want to sort of have something for them. Like maybe they haven't worked in an applied role yet, right? Maybe they're just getting their feet wet or doing hackathons or, creating their own products, like just to be able to practice.
Right.
So, are you seeing like that power of having a portfolio or, you know, projects? Like, do those feel like they're helpful? Like, what advice might you have for those folks?
I mean, the one thing that I keep noticing here is the folks who have adopted AI early are very process minded, right? They probably have a very, very tight workflow for themselves.
Mhm.
Like for me, my day is pretty structured. I have time in the mornings for meetings and busy work and research. A bulk of the day is dedicated to interviewing and then
Mhm.
client related stuff. And I've created this process that I've honed in on for years. So for me, when I layered in AI over how I work, it was pretty easy to see where all the repetitive stuff was happening
Mhm.
and how I could use that. If that is not how you work, I work with somebody who is very more like reacting to everything that's coming at them throughout the day.
Mhm.
It's tougher to see the patterns because
Mhm.
remember at
Mhm.
the end of the day is it's about pattern recognition, right? That's
Yeah.
where it really escalates a lot of stuff. So
Mhm.
if that's not how you're approaching your workday or the projects that you don't, it's tougher. You need guidance to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and everyone works a little bit differently. Like some people I know track everything on a gigantic list. Some people are, again, more reactive, like whatever pings on their screen is the thing that they're responding to next. It's really hard to work like that for me. That's not how.
Mhm.
So I think that's the first evaluation. Be honest about it. How are
Mhm.
you a process person or not? Because
Right.
if not, then you're going to have to figure out how to, like, how would you map out what your day looks like to identify where the busy work and administrative
Mhm.
work that's not productive is happening.
Right. And then how do you talk about that,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. Because I mean, because it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, if you can admit that, then do you start questioning, like, is my work product as good as my teammate who is already deploying AI? No one
Mm.
wants to admit to that, especially now,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So, but
Right.
being honest again about like where it could amplify the great work that you do is that's the real core of your personal assessment, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be argued, right? It brings you closer to the real work that you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're cutting out all the stuff that
Yeah.
isn't really work, it's
You can do
just,
all the more strategic analytical stuff. You have more time for that. But
yeah.
again, it's all about how you work.
Yeah, and I know we said about questions it later, but I think this really comes in at a nice pl time because obviously we are in the midst of a time that is challenging because many companies aren't seeing like, oh, it's an agent, it's an intern, it's actually becoming something that is replacing real workers, right? And that's not because like AI is so good that it just like is replacing people. It's because this is kind of being used as a time for companies to reflect and say, well, if we can augment our existing workforce and if we can, limit how many new hires or how many people we're hiring because of those skills, right?
Yeah.
It becomes that's part of the conversation. So,
Right.
yeah, let's speak to
I
that
mean,
a
I
bit.
think on the organizational level, from what I've seen, people will start with like, let's evaluate the teams that have the most repetitive tasks. So sales, customer success, probably.
Yep.
You've got like a big admin function, like payroll, for example. There's a lot of things you're just constantly doing there, right? So
Mm,
same thing for like onboarding, all the paperwork that you have to fill out in the beginning to get an employee into the organization. Where can we deploy AI? Because those are all repetitive tasks.
yeah. Yeah.
Those are fixed workflows, right? So how do we use this so that that person who was doing this manually before can do other things now while still
Hmm.
running this process,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm saying there's not like a direct replacement per se. It's
No.
not like, okay, now there's like all these like AI systems that are actually replacing a person's workload for the day or the week or whatever. It's more just, yeah, there's a reluctance, I think, a wantingness to be as lean as possible and to upskill people as much as possible so that, they're not making risky hires, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I don't think we're quite there yet where there's
Right.
full replacement on stuff.
No,
I think the
no.
replacement will happen with the people who do not level up and start using AI.
Right. Yeah, and I'm curious too about I mean we talked about bias before with the workday thing, but let's talk about that a bit more because in more people using AI and in there being a sort of upgrade in terms of people who use it for their work and people who don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are some of the risks there as far as amplifying certain biases that might be
Well,
inherent?
so when I first started training um, my different AI tools, like again, because I'm always talking about specific jobs and stuff, right? And there were
Hmm.
certain functions like chief revenue officer, if you're like help draft a job description for this,
Hmm.
immediate default is he.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
So you have to actually educate it to use, neutral language, not gender bias, like, and then take out all of that stuff. There's those tools out there that are making sure that your job descriptions don't sound super male versus female
Hmm.
or more neutral and inclusive, right? You
Hmm.
have to actually train it to do that. So those are like the way that it was built inherently, they're because it's male engineers mostly who are building the code,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So it's kind of shocking, like certain professions, no matter what the default is, like that's a man doing that job.
And will everyone have that moment to be like, hang on, let me just make sure,
But this is how you
right?
educate. Again, the career agent that I just built, because it was using the tool like a body of content that I created,
Hmm.
which I already took all the bias out of, right? It does sound like me. Then I
Hmm.
trained it next on like, here's actual scripts from job search consults that I've done. Here's the
Right.
actual advice I give. It knows what it sounds like to be me, right? So it's picked up on all those patterns. So it asks, and as the more you feed it and teach it, it does start to think like you. So
Right.
again, that's where like I was having a discussion the other day with somebody. So, in the last 6 years since the pandemic, I would say anyone who's entered the job market since 2019, I've probably seen the shortest stints, the most jumpy resumes that you've ever,
Oh yeah,
right? Because these are
absolutely.
macro factors. So when I work with hiring managers who are a little bit more seasoned, I ask them, and I have to re-educate. I'm like, how comfortable are you with folks who've had shorter stints? It could be because they work with startups. They love startups, but it's
Mm,
also the last 5 years, everyone's careers have been disrupted, especially for that earlier stage of the workforce. And
yep.
I've been telling people explicitly, you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt because a lot of those moves were beyond their control.
I mean,
So,
so many. It's a little bit mind-boggling that you have to even say that because, frankly, like,
well,
I mean,
but
if you
that's
haven't
the
been paying
bias.
attention, like, I remember. Do you remember in early 2022, and Y Combinator had put out a letter saying, "Hey, we're coming into a really difficult period. Um, we're not going to be seeing funding the way we were."
Yeah.
And find funding really dried up, and then you have so much instability. You can't blame them for not wanting to make
Well,
key moves.
the thing I explicitly say though is that you can also, the counter of this view is that if that person started in 2019 and has had 5 jobs in 6 years, the other thing that tells me about this person is they're resilient. They kept
Absolutely.
going through the process. They kept landing jobs. And now, after 5 years of this, I'm not surprised when I get them on the phone and they're like, I really think I'm going to go out on my own because at least I'll have more control over my career. You know what I mean? But that is
Yes.
something like we have to talk about more because I think it's still out there, especially for people who are a little bit more senior in their career and probably have had more stability throughout.
Hmm.
Not understanding that viewpoint of that younger workforce. That's just, they haven't had a lot of breaks coming into this. And
And this might be normal to them, but it's
yes,
not because I've been
yeah,
working since 2010, you
yeah,
know? So I remember, I mean, even the difference between when I was laid off and 22, I had three job offers after one single month of interviewing. 1 month, three job offers. That's how many meetings I could take. Like literally 45 meetings in a month to get those three. And then the next time I was laid off, end of 2023, it was like 15 in a year. So imagine that. And,
yeah.
if I didn't know my past and how it was before, I could have internalized that and been like, oh, I'm just not a good interviewer or whatever it might be, right? But now it's like you see those numbers and you see that disparity. And I have a lot of empathy for people that are job seeking. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely something we should talk about more because I don't want people to internalize it and be like, oh, it's me, because
Right.
the reality
And
is
we're
we
in
do.
graduation. Yeah, and we're in graduation season again. So there's a whole
Yep,
other generation of folks coming into the workforce and they're like, WTF. Right?
I know.
Where
I
do I
know.
even start?
I
Yeah,
know. Because I mean, and again, partly it's the environment we're in, the risk environment that we're in right now. Partly it's just I don't know. I guess we just like don't have funding like we used to, right? I mean, before
well,
you just had
also,
more companies coming out. There was like more
well,
optimism.
now there's this thread right now with all the tech layoffs that have been happening that, using we're investing more in AI, so we're trimming our workforce. I think the short-sighted part of that rationale is that if you're not giving opportunities to entry-level people into
Right.
your organization, where is your manager level going to come from?
Hmm.
Where's your pipeline? Where's your bench? How's succession planning going to happen in your organization if you're not bringing in new talent that you're training up, right?
Wasn't it Microsoft or IBM or some one of those that said recently that they were addressing this, that they didn't want it to be just like solely a focus on AI, and they wanted to invest in
IBM's investing a significant
IBM
amount of money in
entry
AI
labor. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
AI related roles that are native, you know what I mean? AI is just
Yeah.
embedded in the position. They're one of the few. And there was, who was it? There was another article I read about. I think it was one of the big, was it Enterprise Cars? I forget. The CEO was interviewed and she was also saying, encouraging entry level recent grads, like there's ways for you to stand out in this job market. Um,
Hmm.
and you have to just lean into that. So there's a handful that are have a
Yeah.
longer term view. Everyone else is, I think, just kind of being responsive and opportunistic.
That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Because again, those productivity gains are not there uniformly yet for you to really be able to say like, oh yes, we have done it.
I
And do you
agree.
even have like enough engineers to make sure that that actually is true too?
Right.
Because it's one
Well,
thing, okay, ChatGPT wrapper, anyone can make that, but
right.
when you're actually deploying AI systems and now you're actually using modeling and you're actually using embedded AI in internal stuff, right? Like there's a difference between a
The
chat
tools
GPT
aren't free.
wrapper.
The tools aren't free. Like somebody I was following
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn posted, like, okay, I've been experimenting with creating these agents.
Mm-hmm.
It's going great, but I'm getting a bill, a daily bill on what I'm spending on Anthropic.
Mm-hmm.
When does it stop that it's like, wait a second, I'm
Right.
doing this myself, and then like when this is done being built, what if it's as expensive as have hiring
Right.
a level engineer that I could have talked to? You know what I mean? Like there is a trade-off. These are not free tools.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the other thing to consider. Like there's got to be, I think there's going to have to be a whole salary survey on like this type of application is going to cost between this and this. So cost benefit analysis. Do you hire an intern to do that? Or you know what I mean? That you can train and grow into other things, or do you rely solely on your agents? I don't
Right.
know. Right. But there's going to be, that has to be a check and balance there.
Yeah, I think I think as more companies like IBM start showing that like, okay, yes, we said this, but we found this kind of mix. Because I mean it is a mix. It's a combination of the two. You're gonna have some AI enhancements and optimizations and things that work while still using like the brain of the people who are your employees. Because much like Google, it's not like you can really set it and forget it. Like we still need people. And that's what I want to remind the new grads of today. It's like we do need you because we're the drivers. We're the creative spark, right? We're in a meeting, we're thinking about something, we have a challenge. It's the person who's thinking about, "Oh, I want X to happen." And then the tools are just the manifestors, the vehicles with which we get there maybe, but that thought is still going to exist in someone's brain first. So,
One interesting article I read recently said that the fastest growing group of AI, people adopting AI, are
mm,
actually women over 50
mm.
because of the combination of experience and discernment that they have from their range of work experience.
I
Right.
love
So
that.
they're not the ones who are going to be like, oh, the first draft is fine. Let's just,
Right.
they're going to keep pushing it and really using their experience and their skills and their thinking, like what they know about that problem that they're solving. They will inject that into the AI to get to the place where they really want to be, right?
Hmm.
That optimal answer, rather than being like, oh, that's good enough, let's
Mm,
submit that to the client. So I thought that was interesting, but again, it goes back to what I said earlier about like having those strategic and analytical thinking skills and the ability to communicate that, actually, because
mm,
you have to be interacting with this thing, right?
right.
It should be a conversation almost.
Hmm.
And if you don't kind of push it in terms of like how it's thinking, where it's gathering info, how it's gathering info, that's
Mm.
where we get into that weird stuff, like everything sounds like a bot. Like women over 50 are probably going to be like, write this thing for me, but give me all the citations. Where'd you get your information from? I want to see the sources, blah blah
Well,
blah. They want
that's
validation.
That's the interesting thing because even from a branding perspective, right? It's like, okay, you want to replace your creative, your talent with AI, fine, but it's going to result in whatever cardboard granola expression of this brand or whatever it's supposed to be. Because I remember like back in the day, there was all this like optimism from all these companies, like we're changing the world, like what we're doing is incredible. There was like so much passion, right? And that passion was inherent through their marketing and through the virality of their ideas, right? And now it's almost like we're seeing a trend of almost the opposite of almost this like grayification of everybody's tone and what they're actually putting forward because of AI. So
Right,
it's interesting. Like we
right.
talk about how to make people feel inspired right now, but the best way that you can inspire and stand apart from the crowd is to find a way to still have a voice right now,
Right.
right? Be
Well,
seen.
also, I think the other thing to think about is it could also just be a way for like the most like just personalization.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
can really embody, your agents can really embody your point of view and so
Hmm.
every interaction that somebody has with it, they're going to be like, that kind of feels like I talked to Regina. Even
Right.
though I know it was AI enabled. So that's the other part. Like you get to a certain point with it, and then they're like, okay, now I have to talk to the real person.
Mm, but that's what makes right now so meta because it's almost like if you can't convince me that you're you, then you great, good, you used it well. If you can't convince me that you're you, now I'm offended. Now I'm irritated. You know what I mean? And it's almost like that way in hiring, like you were saying, those people reading those scripts, and because it's kind of like, yeah, like if you can, let's say for the sake of the argument you don't have any of the technical skills, right? And you're pretending you're using AI, but if you can demonstrate it to the point where you're getting hired for this stuff, right? Maybe you deserve to be there. Like, are we coming into this era now where it just like the
Right.
the truth doesn't even matter anymore?
Well,
Like,
that's an interesting point because there's this whole thing around vibe coding, right? Like
right.
non-technical people jumping in. But if you can distinguish the non-technical people who got technical enough to create something successful, that's somebody you'd want to hire, bring into your organization. Because they would kick the, like, they would have such a different point of view on kind of how you are working, how your teams are interacting with it.
Mm,
Because they're like, I mean, I don't really have a technical skill set and I kind
mm,
of just went for it. And,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
again, it's the
Right.
curiosity piece. It's having a plan for like, what am I trying to accomplish here? Right? That is it going to align with how I use this tool? That's really what it was. Like in the back of my head, there was still a strategy behind what I was trying, my end goal.
Right. Right. And
So,
you found a way to
right.
get there.
But again, that took the love, like my experience. I know what works in terms of career coaching. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
I had a theory and I just was trying to see like, okay, could AI pick up some of this for somebody who wanted a more on-demand solution to help
Right.
accelerate their job search?
And then when you're like mentoring or giving advice to people using AI thoughtfully and not becoming over reliant, how do you approach those conversations?
Um, it really depends on where they are in their career and like in their job search process if they're actively looking. Like for
Hmm.
everyone now who's, if you've been impacted by a riff recently and you're in market, if you have time, take some of these courses. Claude has a whole academy of free stuff. Get certified. LinkedIn has that stuff too.
Hmm.
But show that you are gaining the skill set in some way, shape, or form, even if you're
Yep.
not yet applying it to your day to day, right? Get
Yep.
exposure. Like that's
Mhm.
really all I can say. And then from there, figure out like, I would challenge you if you're a manager and in your career transition right now and you're exploring AI for the first time, okay, how would you deploy that in your next job? Or thinking
Mhm.
about your last role, where do you think this would have been really helpful now
Mhm.
that you know
Mhm.
more about it?
Yeah.
So if you can speak like in an interview setting around those issues, I mean, that might be the icebreaker you need to stand out from all the other candidates because the hiring
Right.
manager could say, oh my gosh, we're grappling with the same issue right now.
And
have
how many people will get their hands dirty, right?
yes, exactly. Because it's extra work. Like
It's still rare.
it
Yeah.
so you have to, I think that's a distinguishing factor who's like actually willing to learn and think in a different way using these
Hmm.
tools. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
so
because I think a fair amount of people are still in the wait and see, like you said. They're still skeptical, apprehensive. Is this a fad? If this is a bubble, blah blah blah.
mhm.
Um, and I don't know if you watch that show Hacks. Do you?
Yes, of course.
I love hacks so much. And I saw a TikTok from that show. It was like they're in this meeting with one of the heads of the, network or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, you gotta get on board or you're gonna get left behind or whatever. And she's like, this is what I resent. I resent that this is being put on me. Like you're the one using it. You're the one making me left behind, and he's coming at it from like, oh, this is an industrial revolution. Like we gotta do it, kind of thing. And I agree with him. Like I agree. It is. Like it's not going anywhere, it's not a fad. Like it's just a matter of what level of engagement are we going to settle on as being normal and in the no, name and culture of, what we're doing and what is normal use, right? We're still
Yeah.
not there. We're still quite at the start of it as far as adoption.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and even with applications of AI within products and things like that, it still is simple models that are being deployed in production at scale. When I'm talking about within apps,
Mhm.
like obviously there's a knowledge base and a bot you're going to interact with, but beyond that, when it comes to like real risk and real decision making stuff, those models, simpler models are still preferred because they're more explainable. So
Right.
it's interesting. Like we're still kind of in this muddy middle ground.
Oh yeah, it's gonna. I mean, again, it's one of those like um weird times. Like you feel like you have to move really, really fast to get there, but also like things we have to give ourselves time to settle
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
there we're still in a lot heavy experimentation phase. I
yeah,
think long term of like how your work and how you work will really change. It's still going to take a while because we have
yeah.
to build that practice around our day to day, right? And
Like
I
the
think companies have to think about that too.
and the technology is advancing, but our adoption of that advancement is not right
No.
alongside with it.
Right,
So
right.
it feels overwhelming, but it's also kind of like start anywhere, do anything,
Yeah.
anything, any part of it that you like feel like you can do and connect with, and then
Mhm.
just start from there is really like the best thing to do because then it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Right, 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 right.
Wow. Well,
Did we
thank you.
cover a
Thank you
lot
for
of questions? Yeah.
we did, we did.
Okay.
I know. I was like, yeah, I think we're we're definitely covering some areas of this. But no, thank you for speaking so honestly and for sharing your perspective. Again, you're doing this from a practitioner standpoint, but also you're in this in the midst of these topics, like from a hiring manager perspective too.
Yeah.
So I think it's really valuable for people to hear from people like you. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me. Do we have
Yeah.
any questions from the
There is, yeah. So there's a lack of innovation, and it's concerning because you require data to train your models. If the data is static and nothing new and innovative is being created, then the agents are robotic. More of a comment.
Okay.
And then I've seen individuals in my network who are interacting with their firms. They're utilizing AI in their hiring process and indicating the lack of experience. Someone posted a message that was generated out of Workday that had the company listed in dot 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 because they forgot to include. Definitely a lack of personalization. So I think this is just reflecting on, yeah, that grayness we were talking about. I don't know
Yeah.
if you wanted to add any
Yeah.
other.
Well, I mean, Workday is like one of the worst applicant tracking systems I
Oh
have
my
ever.
gosh. It's awful as an
It's
app
awful.
someone applying because it takes
And
so
yeah,
long, so many pages. It's awful.
I mean, they did no user testing or they have no care about the end
It
user.
shows.
It shows, right?
Shows.
And the one that's also surprising to me, like LinkedIn Recruiter, being part of Microsoft and how behind they are on their AI deployment on that platform is
Mm,
shocking. I've used that since the beginning, and I used to tell all of the sales reps there, like, you know, every single search I've put in that database. Like when I go into LinkedIn as LinkedIn Recruiter as a user, you should be populating a list like, Regina, call these 20 people today
hmm.
based
Yeah,
on your past search experience. You know what I mean?
right,
Search
right.
history. Here are the people you're looking for.
Recommendation systems have been around a long time. There's
Exactly.
literally no reason.
But even the job recommendations, like, don't you can't rely on them
Oh
because
no.
I don't know what it's matching on, but
Mm.
they're way out there. It's like,
But again, I think the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem is so dry. Like there's like not that much stuff to even get excited about. My goodness. I mean, it's all tax software, procurement software. Like it's not the same landscape we were in,
yeah.
pre-pandemic. Certainly not.
Well, I think the reason there too is that there's a lot of stuff being created now to disrupt what used to be 100% manual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about, like, I'm seeing
Right.
for here's an operating system for places like beauty salons and nail salons for your appointments, your billing, your tracking, your CRM. Um,
Mm-hmm.
these are not sexy things.
Mm-hmm. The
These-
infrastructure, the scaffolding.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good way to see it, actually. Yeah.
So that's a lot of the investment right now in
Mm,
SaaS. It's like, okay, how do we bring these sectors that were completely offline online is still
mm-hmm.
the problem they're solving for. I think also because we've moved into an app-based world,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's only focusing on one specific problem to solve.
Mm.
They're not
Yeah.
thinking a platform or an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think that's why it's gotten so narrow. They're like, we only want to do this really, really, really well.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Specialization.
yeah, so it's not changing like a broader set of like, oh no, this will change exactly how you work completely.
Right. Right. Which means there's still time. But also, yeah, right? I mean, kind of, because I see it this way. Maybe that's the state of things right now. But
Mhm.
I do think, because I mean, how many companies are we going to start to see spring up where it's like four people, no one's getting paid, but somehow they're doing everything because they're really leveraging their tools and you know, and okay, because adoption is still so low, I think there's going to be a natural sort of consequence of more adoption, more people just getting into it for the love of the game, and then it turns out, okay, that's going to be a thing. So I do feel optimistic just because like these tools are being democratized right now. So in theory, and maybe a more, because obviously we're talking about like the backdrop of like wars and like gas and everything else we're talking about. So there's fear, there's a reluctance there, but assuming that changes or we come out of this like stormy, cloudy time, um, there should be an expression, a manifestation of new ideas coming in, just because of how accessible everything is right now. So
Yeah.
I am excited about that. I am kind of waiting for that.
Wait, Allison asked a question about guidelines and restrictions on
Mm,
AI can be used for in hiring. So the first thing expression of this that I've seen out there, and it's going to be a state by state thing, but I think it's going to happen fairly quickly. You should notice on certain job descriptions in certain states, there's now a disclaimer that companies are including about where they're using. New York is leading this. They're one of
mm,
the early ones, but the company has to disclose or share that, like, here's where we're using AI in our process.
mm. I
And
love that.
the candidates can ask for really specific info, but that's going to be happening, rolling out on a state by state basis. I would say New York and California are probably going to be the two strictest ones because they always are,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
that's kind of in process as we speak.
That's exciting because I don't know if you've seen those. I mean, you must have seen them, those clear view or whatever, where they track all your movements. And I'm like, what kind of determinations are they making about me because I looked on the left versus the right or whatever it is? Like they're
Like
like,
biometric stuff, I mean, those Facebook, the Meta glasses, the
oh,
Ray-Bans,
that. I mean, that's,
right? So
yeah.
because they're so that's like totally three-dimensional data gathering. They're doing biometrics. So they're like, oh, Irene gets really excited when she sees ads for this product.
Mm,
Let's give her more ads for that. And then they're going to be like, oh, let's notice how if we tie together all of her different transactions, this is the kind of shopper she is. This is how much risk she's willing to take. So let's
mm,
offer up these financial products to see if she'll bite. But do you
hmm.
see how they're like tracking your
Yeah.
breathing, where you're looking, your heart rate? Like that's crazy.
Well, but I'm saying even in
So,
hiring, when you're
yeah,
hiring, they
yeah,
have, stuff tracking how you're moving and if you're
yeah, yeah,
touching your
yeah,
face and, whatever. But like,
yeah.
what is it deciding based on those things? Like,
I
what
think
research is
right
that
now,
based on? You know what
I
I
think
mean?
that's still just to make sure that you're a human.
Oh, okay. I thought they were because someone was talking about it like, oh yeah, like if you touch your neck or you're self-soothing and then like it's picking up on the behavioral things like that. So I'm like, oh,
There's a lot of, I mean, body language is a really strong indicator of like your mindset. So I
right. But if
think
like a
there's,
tool is deciding what something means,
yeah,
right? It's
no,
like what
I
research is it based off of? And now you're making hiring decisions on if someone's, you know what I mean? It's like
yeah, yeah,
tricky.
it's
Like,
tricky. I think that's a lot of gray area, but
yeah. Well, fantastic. Yeah.
that
I
flew
do
past.
I do want to keep in track of like the legislative like movements though. So I'm glad we had that question at the end about how the guidelines and restrictions will be
Yeah.
applied. Something
The
to look out for.
Bogey versus Workday case is the one to keep tabs on.
Because that's disclosing what you were saying, like where in the process they're using AI and
Oh no, the person who brought the suit to them was a middle-aged um, professional who got laid off and was instantly rejected from every single application he ever sent in. And
oh, based on
instead of him,
age.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
and he happened to be 40 plus year old black man living in Chicago. So he was
Oh,
like, why am I getting rejected 2 minutes after I submit my application any time of the night? So instead of him looking at the companies, he reverse engineered, like, where was I applying to? And it was all Workday. So
wow.
that's the thing. And during the period he was searching, 1.5 billion applications were processed on Workday. So how many other people had that same experience?
Wow.
So that's the class action part that could potentially happen.
I mean, I could see why, because after all
Yeah,
those pages of a resume and you get rejected within 2 minutes, like
yeah,
I'd start to wonder too.
yeah. He was like, that wasn't a human doing that.
No, yeah. And yes, I'm learning that spacing is assessing my age. If you have one versus two, they determine your age. Oh. Oh, like spacing of college graduation years and work years and stuff like that.
I'm not sure.
Well,
Yeah,
regardless, yes, thank you so much, Regina, for being with us. I really appreciate this.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
will follow up with the link to the My Career Agent and let me
Yes,
know
please
what
do.
the experience is like.
And I can I mean if you're comfortable with it, I can post it as a comment on the video. And even when it's on the YouTube, we can put it as a comment or in
Oh,
the
that'd be
description.
cool.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
If
Thank
you
you.
if you're okay with it.
I
Yeah.
am.
Awesome.
Thanks again for having me.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. And thank
Bye.
you guys for
Yeah.
joining.
Bye.
Bye.